What's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at this motherboard right here, which is Gigabyte's Z890 Eagle WiFi7, and it might be the best bang for your buck Z890 motherboard out there. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, as we take a first look at the motherboard here, this is a standard ATX motherboard, and the color design goes across Gigabyte's entire Eagle line. So if you see like their Eagle graphics cards, they're gonna have the same sort of design, which is a black PCB with sort of like gunmetal or dark gray accents. Looking at the CPU socket, we have Intel's new LGA 1851 socket, which currently only supports the new Core Ultra processors. This socket has the same dimensions and same center-to-center distance for the mounting holes as LGA 1700, so your LGA 1700 compatible CPU coolers will work with this socket. Surrounding the CPU socket, we have our power delivery components, and Gigabyte is making use of a 14+1+2 power phase design, with the V-core phases being 60 amps. The power delivery components are covered by two large heatsinks, which will keep your temperatures in check. The top corner of the board comes together with your rear I/O cover, which does say Eagle on it. Hiding in the top corner of the board are your two 8-pin EPS connectors and a single 4-pin fan header. This fan header is going to be perfect for a rear or top fan in your case. Moving across the board, you'll find your CPU fan header, optional CPU fan header, 3-pin addressable RGB header, and 3 small buttons which include power, reset, and QF+. QF+ is of course QFlash+, which allows you to update the BIOS without having to install a CPU, RAM, or a video card. It's actually really great to see dedicated buttons on an entry-level board like this. Below the CPU fan headers, you'll find your DDR5 DIMM slots, which do support up to 256 gigabytes of DDR5 9200 memory. Coming to the edge of the board, you'll find your 24-pin ATX power connector, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 header, USB 3.2 Gen 1 header, and 4 SATA 6GB ports. The SATA ports and USB 3.2 Gen 1 header are at a 90-degree angle, so they don't get in the way of your expansion cards. At the bottom of the board, you'll find the rest of your headers and connections. So from left to right, you have your front panel audio header, LED demo header, 2 3-pin addressable RGB headers, a 4-pin standard RGB header, TPM header, 2 USB 2.0 headers, Thunderbolt header, 3 4-pin fan headers, and your front panel headers. Like most motherboards these days, the bottom half of the board is characterized by heat sinks. Now, both of the heat sinks here do make use of Gigabyte's Easy Latch Plus system, which essentially you have a latch on each one of them and you just release the latch and remove the heat sink. Super easy to do. Now, this top heat sink is a bit thicker than the bottom one because this is meant to cool off a PCI Express 5.0 drive, because your top slot here is going to be PCI Express 5.0. Putting the heatsink back on is extremely easy. You just line it up here. And again, let's line it up and you just snap it right back in that easily. The bottom heatsink is very much the same. Again, you just release this and lift it off. Really easy to go ahead and do that. And this one's actually even easier to put back on because you just line up the pegs here at the end. And again, just click it right back into place. Really easy to go ahead and do that. Now with this removed, we have 3 M.2 slots. They are all PCI Express 4.0 with the bottom slot actually supporting SATA M.2 drives as well. Now all of the slots, including the top slot as well, also make use of Gigabyte's Easy Latch Click system. So essentially what you do is you put in your M.2 just like this, and then you just press it down and it clicks into place and locks into place. You want to take your drive out, you just go like that, it pops out, and you're good to go. Super easy to do. All of these systems work flawlessly and just make either your building or maintenance process so much easier. For the expansion slots, we have 3 PCI Express X16 slots. The top slot is PCI Express 5.0 and runs at X16 speed, while the bottom 2 are PCI Express 4.0 and run at X4 speeds. The top slot is metal reinforced, and Gigabyte calls this their PCIe UD Slot X, which offers 10 times low bearing capacity and a zinc alloy design. When it comes to graphics card removal, there is a button on the board right here that allows you to release the graphics card slot. I'll show it to you first without a graphics card installed, just to see that it does release this section here. So you press it, and again, just releases that section. Really easy to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and get a graphics card. So here's our graphics card, and as you can see, it is locked in there. But if I hit the button, it just releases the graphics card and makes it easy to go ahead and take out. I can put it back in. And again, locked in there, I can hit the button, it releases, and I can go ahead and release my graphics card. Now, the reason you want to do this, or the reason that button is there, is because if we flip things around to this side, where the actual release would be right in here. And with your M.2 heatsink and everything, it's just really hard to access this, especially again, you have to think you're gonna have a CPU cooler right here as well. It's gonna just be really hard to press that down to release. So that's why they put the button over here. So again, super easy to press this down and release our graphics card. It's just super simple. Like most motherboards these days, the rear IO has an integrated IO shield. When it comes to connections, we have 4 USB 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, DisplayPort, a USB 4 Type-C port, which does support DisplayPort alt mode, 3 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, 2.5 gig LAN, your Wi-Fi easy plug, and your audio connections. So here is the included Wi-Fi 7 antenna, and it features their Wi-Fi easy plug, which essentially is just a plug right here that you just plug in. No more turning those little knobs and stuff like that. All you have to do is simply just line it up, plug it in, and you're good to go. And again, you can adjust the antenna how you want, but just makes the process so much easier. When it comes to RGB lighting, there's actually a considerable amount on this board. So you have RGB lighting by the Eagle logo on the rear IO cover, and then on the edge of the board where it says game on, and this will actually provide some great underglow. And then finally, you have some RGB lighting around the chipset heatsink. As we come to the end here, I have to say this is definitely a great bang for your buck Z890 motherboard. And when we think of the Z890 chipset, this board has essentially everything that we want. So we're gonna get Gen 5 support not only on our storage, but also on that top graphics card slot. Talking about storage, of course, we have a total of 4 M.2 slots. So you can do a pretty storage heavy build here. You're gonna get USB 4 connectivity as well as Wi-Fi 7 connectivity. Even though the Wi-Fi 7 doesn't support 320 megahertz, it's still Wi-Fi 7. You're still getting that Wi-Fi connectivity on this board. Also, all of the ease of use features, right? So all of the M.2 slots are completely toolless, including the heat sinks. You have the button here, which makes it really easy to release your graphics card. Even the Wi-Fi antenna just plugs in. No more like turning those little ends or anything like that, which I really like to see. So it makes the installation process or even doing maintenance on your system extremely easy. So I really, really like that. Now we do have a little bit of a weaker VRM here, but again, I didn't run into any issues. And I think for most people who are gonna run an Intel processor at its stock settings, you're not gonna run into any issues with the VRM or anything. And again, you get a great board with all of the features that you want for only $219. And if you think about the price range of Z890 motherboards, they go again from that $219 all the way up to like $819. So you can take the savings and buy a better graphics card. You can buy, more RAM. You can buy that Gen 5 drive instead of the Gen 4 drive. Like that money can go so much further as opposed to just buying a really expensive Z890 motherboard where you're really not going to use all of the features. So if you are looking for a great Z890 motherboard, this is definitely it. So if you have any questions about this board specifically, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. And of course, I will have links below to our full written review as well as where you can go ahead and pick this up. We'll see you guys in the next video.